Well, today we have the privilege of talking to Peter Wolfgang. He's Executive Director of the Family Institute of Connecticut. Peter, thanks so much for being here.
Kim, thank you for having me.
Now, you had a pretty great year. We've seen just an explosion of physician-assisted suicide bills really across the country. Connecticut was able to defeat it. Tell me a little bit about what happened.
It's true, Kim. We just defeated assisted suicide for now the third year in a row. They came to Connecticut in the year 2013. By they, I mean the Pro-Assisted Suicide Lobby. This is a national organization. They now call themselves Compassion and Choices. They are better known by their original name, their more honest name, the Hemlock Society. This is a big, well-funded organization funded by the likes of George Soros, the liberal billionaire, and population control institutes, because that's the real agenda here. And what Compassion and Choices did was they came into the state of Connecticut 3 years ago. They wanted Connecticut to be the first state to legalize assisted suicide, not just by referendum, which had already happened in Oregon and Washington state, but to make Connecticut the first state to do it through the legislature. And we stopped them. We stopped them cold in 2013, and now in 2015 we've just stopped them for the third year in a row. We stopped them at the earliest possible stage of our legislative process, which is right in committee. It never even made it out of committee. It never even got a vote because we were able to have such good public hearings. We were able to turn out so many people to speak against assisted suicide, and we had a very diverse coalition. As you mentioned, this is an issue that has now popped up in many states. What our advantage is in the state of Connecticut is because Compassion and Choices came to Connecticut first, we were able to sort of build a body of knowledge in terms of how to defeat them, how to create a playbook. And what we've developed in Connecticut, the model for defeating assisted suicide, is now something that we're trying to share with the help of CitizenLink, with our partners at CitizenLink and other good people. We're trying to share the Connecticut model with other states because, as you know, ever since the much celebrated assisted suicide of Brittany Maynard in California, this is now an issue that's in many states across the country. But what we've learned in Connecticut is that you can build a very ideologically diverse coalition, very unlike anything else I think we've ever done in the pro-family movement before. The pro-family movement itself is a coalition, right? We're Catholics, we're Protestants, we're people of a variety of different faiths, and we've all come together around the shared goal of protecting and supporting the family. Well, now with assisted suicide, we have an even broader coalition, and now ideologically diverse coalition, where people who may not necessarily agree with us on any other issue, people who are unfortunately pro-abortion or pro-same-sex marriage, very liberal in their other views, agree with us that assisted suicide is bad public policy that puts vulnerable populations at risk. If you can form a coalition with particularly disability rights activists, many of whom are, as I said, very left on other issues, but they're very open to fighting this because they are concerned that they are the ones that will be targeted. That if we have a pro-assisted suicide regime, if we have a legal system in the United States that licenses doctors to prescribe suicide as a treatment and grants legal immunity to those that help you kill yourself, well, if you're someone with a disability or if you're an elderly person, that's you in the dock. You know, you could have a situation where a family says, gee, Grandpa, you're costing us a lot of money. Wouldn't this be easier? To say nothing of people with, in some cases, very severe disabilities, and it requires sometimes help from the government, from social programs, and money to help give them the life that they're trying to have. And so in a pro-assisted suicide regime, it's more likely that these folks will be pushed towards suicide, and they are the first ones. They know this better than anyone. They are the first ones who can speak to this. And I have to tell you, as someone who has fought abortion since I was a teenager, as many of us have in the pro-family movement, you can't sit across a table from an unborn child, have a cup of coffee with her, and listen to her say, look at the fear in her face, and listen to her say, I'm afraid I'm the one who's going to be targeted if this becomes legal. With assisted suicide, the actual potential victims of an assisted suicide regime are the ones who can lead this fight. Now, it can be tricky. You know, you want to be careful in how you go about this. We are coming to a common cause from very different perspectives on other issues. But what we've shown in Connecticut is this can be done. We meet with folks, including even gay activists who are opposed to assisted suicide. We meet with them about once every 3 weeks in Connecticut and plot strategy together to defeat assisted suicide. And we brought up national speakers to the state capitol. We've had people who are actually suffering from terminal illness that don't want to die. We've had people who were misdiagnosed, who were told that they had 6 months or less to live, that went on to live very productive lives for decades longer. We've had examples of abuse in the there's only 3 states where it's legal now. In the 3 states where it's legal, we've had examples of abuse. There's famous cases, for instance, of a woman in Oregon who she was suffering with cancer and she applied for the drugs to extend her life, and she got a letter back from the insurance agency saying, you don't qualify for those drugs, they're too expensive, but you do qualify for the drugs to take your own life. So this is, these are the abuses that our friends in the disability rights community especially, and in the medical community, many doctors and nurses don't want this to be legalized. These are the abuses that we're all concerned about, and it really is, I think assisted suicide is one of the next big issues over the next 10 years or so, the way same-sex marriage has been. I think this is one of the big things that's barreling down the runway, that the pro-family movement needs to get out in front of this and look at what we've done in Connecticut, develop similar strategies in your states, and it will open, I think, new possibilities. I mean, you'll make connections with people that you never thought you would make connections with, especially in light of some recent battles on other issues. But I think this is an opening maybe to heal some of those wounds across divisions and move our culture forward towards a culture that respects life.
Such good stuff. Now, I assume that your legislature is out of session right now. Is that true?
That's true. We've defeated it. It's dead for 2015. Okay. It's not coming back. Where things stand is very unusual. The pro-assisted suicide lobby got a hearing 3 years in a row, which is very unusual for a bill this controversial, a bill that couldn't even make it out of committee, but they have a lot of money, and unfortunately money does talk in politics. But I think now, after their 3rd defeat, where things stand in Connecticut is the pro-assisted suicide lobby has said on their websites that they are coming back next year to try to get a 4th hearing. Now, what we're hearing at the state capitol is that the legislators are tired of this issue. It hasn't gone anywhere. We've crushed it, not just defeated it, crushed it 3 years in a row. And the legislators in Connecticut, what we're hearing, really don't want to deal with this again. However, Compassion and Choices has said they vowed to come back a 4th year in Connecticut, so we have to be on our guard. It was very unusual that they got a hearing 3 years in a row, but 3 years in a row, 2 different committees, we defeated it both times, 3 times, and we'll do it again if we have to.
Now, what other issues are you guys working on for the 2016 legislature?
Well, like much of the rest of the country, we want to look at defunding Planned Parenthood. We just had 2 rallies simultaneously in the cities of Waterbury and Stamford, Connecticut, and this was part of nationwide rallies that were happening everywhere called Women Betrayed for the purpose of defunding Planned Parenthood. This is something that really needs to be on the agenda in Connecticut. You know, one of the best kept secrets in Connecticut is that we actually have a larger pro-life grassroots movement in Connecticut than does the pro-abortion side. There's almost no grassroots pro-abortion movement to speak of. We know this because I, as one of the more prominent pro-life activists in Connecticut, I go around to a lot of pro-life events. I'm their speakers at their crisis pregnancy center dinners and other events. And we have huge, I've been to events that have 1,000 or more people. We actually protest outside some of the more prominent pro-abortion events that would include like the lieutenant governor and all the top political brass in the state of Connecticut. And even though they have all the top politicians, no one's attending these events. They have a lot of money and no actual supporters. So I think they have a glass jaw. They're a paper tiger. And I think if we gather our forces, particularly in light of the opening now created by these videos that have been released about the trafficking in aborted baby body parts from Planned Parenthood, I think we have an opening and we're going to push it in Connecticut. We're going to try to defund Planned Parenthood. We've tried a few times before, but I think the entire legislative environment now has shifted.
Wonderful. Peter, so good to have you here with us. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, CitizenLink.